Hey guys, this is Heather Olson Beal from the Center for Teaching and Learning. I am tasked with doing makeups with people who weren't able to be at the last session, even though I didn't deliver that session. So this could be interesting. Also, I've been sick all weekend, so you'll have to forgive my sniffy nose and if I cough and stuff like that. But I'm gonna make this brief. I know I want to respect your time. I know everyone's crazy busy. And really, most of what was valuable, I think, about that session, which was given by Neil Armstrong, which I should have started with that. It was about cooperative learning, and Neil is a faculty member in the secondary education department where I teach as well, and he's done workshops for local high school teachers on cooperative learning. Of course, middle school and high school are not the same as college. I know, and he knows. But I think what was most valuable about it were the discussions that took place, and so you guys are gonna miss that, and I'm not gonna pretend that we can reproduce that here. But that was the primary topic. He talked a little bit about basically what it is and does it have a role in higher ed. And as I mentioned when I did the last session, I guess a few weeks ago or a month ago, these kinds of things, cooperative learning, high impact practices, active student engagement, those are the kinds of things that we're really wanting and that the provost is really wanting to see faculty members try to implement. So I'm going to just cruise through some of these slides, and then I'm going to send you guys a couple of articles that Neil shared with everyone, and then we can just kind of go from there. So just brief overview. Neil talked about a general definition of cooperative learning, what it is, why we might want to use it, is there a place for it in university classrooms, and if so, why? Why would we want to be doing this rather than the more traditional lecture form? And also, I want to say that Neil was very careful not to denigrate lecture. He probably did a better job of that than I would. Um, but just to say, this is, if you're going to be a teacher, you're going to want to have kind of all these tools in your toolbox, so to speak, and that this is just one of many things that you might try. And then, like I said, he got people at their tables to think of successful collaborative teaching methods, either that they've participated in as students or that they've done as faculty members in their own content areas. Um, okay, I'll just read this. It's an instructional method in which students work together in small heterogeneous groups to solve a problem or complete a project, and the teacher acts as a guide or a facilitator. Someone asked in the session, oops, I didn't want that to happen, why it's important that the groups be heterogeneous. So we talked through that a little bit. That's kind of a prickly topic, especially in K through 12 education. Um, I'm not sure how people feel about it in higher ed, but the thinking is that people really do learn from people who are different, and so that if you were going to set up groups, it would be best to set up groups where there's different individual characteristics, differences in gender, differences in race, differences in language, differences in ability, differences in major. Of course, it all depends on what level you're teaching. But one faculty member said basically he didn't want to worry about that, and he just uses the groups tool on D2L. D2L doesn't worry about any of that demographic, ability, interest issue, and that's just what he uses. So that's definitely a different approach. I would probably be a fan and an advocate for, as much as you can, setting up groups where there are some of those differences, because I think it's most valuable that way, but that's probably just a personal preference. We talked too about how lots of times when people hear cooperative learning, they think that it just means everyone's working on something at a table or around a table, but everyone's doing the same thing, but they're sort of talking while doing it, and that's not really cooperative learning. cooperative learning implies, these are the 5 components, and he's got these on another slide later. They have to need each other. Each person kind of has to have a role and has to have something that he or she has to do in order for the whole thing to pull off. There has to be interaction. It says face to face, but of course, some of us teach online classes, so we have to sort of simulate that. Um, each member has to be responsible for something, so that you don't have one person kind of begrudgingly just take it over and do it all, and the other people riding on their coattails. Um, and you have to have kind of scaffolding or a framework in place to help them. I think, and this is someone who used to me. I used to teach high school. Now I'm here in higher ed. I think we take for granted the notion that working cooperatively with others is just intuitive, that you can just do it. But I think it is a skilled process, and it's something that you can get better at. It's something that I still struggle with. So I definitely believe that it's something that requires skill, because sometimes I feel like I'm not very good at it. Um, and then ideally, there would be points in this cooperative learning process for the group, each group member and the groups together, to reflect: how are we doing? Are we working well? Are we dysfunctional? Are we accomplishing our goals? Here's a checklist or whatever, something kind of to at a kind of meta level, to think: are we doing this? Is this working for us? Um, I'm gonna let you guys read some of this if you want. Okay, these are the 5 things that I just sort of talked through, that were on that other slide. And again, forgive my sniffy nose. Um, there's 3 different types he talked through. A formal one, where the students are working together, where the groups are set up and established, and there's a specific project that they're working on, and it can be from one class period, over several. That's considered a formal cooperative learning. Informal would just be, you kind of saying, get into groups of 3 to 5 and talk through this, or work on this particular thing, where it's kind of just ad hoc. And then a third type is a long-term thing, and I think this happens sometimes, like with a cohort. And we tend to do this in our department with some of our internship classes. Not everyone does it, but some do. Set the students up so that they're with the same group basically throughout the course of the semester. Here are a couple of examples. Neil talked through some of those. Some of the articles that I'm going to send you have these and a whole bunch more examples with explanations. You can take a look at those. Okay, so like I said, there was a lot of kind of group processing and discussion. Neil modeled the think, pair, share, which is one of those things that kind of gets tossed out all the time. I think it's a good technique and it's easy to do, but think about what you've done in your own classes or what you've seen as a student. Would it work? So each person thought about it, and then they talked about it with a partner, and then some people shared what their experiences had been. Okay. We talked a little bit about this quote right here, how the role of the college professor is changing for better or for worse. There's definitely a sense from college professors that, maybe students are coming less prepared than they were 10 years ago, or than they used to be in a previous generation. Like I said, for better or for worse, I think there's probably some truth to that. And that students are coming from a K through 12 environment where these active learning strategies and active student engagement and cooperative learning has really been pushed, so that they come kind of expecting to continue that. Whether you decide to indulge them or not is up to you. But I think that's kind of an expectation with students coming from high school. We talked about the changing demographics of university, where we have more first-generation students. I think this is particularly applicable here to SFA, where, every commencement, Baker Batillo tells us that, more than half of the graduates are first-time graduates. So we are dealing with that population. And I think there's definitely some some research in the education field that suggests that these kinds of learning strategies are particularly good for those students. Um, we watched this video right here. Actually, we watched pieces of both videos. Um, and one of them, I think it was this one. Forgive me for not being certain, but I'm not going to go back and re-record this. The man actually shows. It's a good video, even if you just watch and kind of scan through it, because I think it's a little bit long. He shows how he does some cooperative learning in a big lecture hall classroom, and it's pretty cool. So it's not, because sometimes I think university faculty get frustrated because it's like, yeah, we're not in high school, different context, different environment. But this actually is a college class. He's asking the students to work through something cooperatively and collaboratively, so you can kind of see what it looks like and how it works. So that's about it. That's a quick summary minus the interaction. Um, okay, I'm gonna email directions to you guys. I hope this works.